Look at your own hand right now. Whatever color it is, here's something that should genuinely unsettle you. Every single person who ever lived, every ancestor you have, going back far enough, had skin darker than yours. Not slightly darker. Dark. Every one of them. So somewhere, at some point, something happened to change that. For some people, but not others. And here's the part almost nobody actually knows. The part they never taught you properly in school. It wasn't the sun slowly bleaching anyone, like fabric left out too long. What really happened was faster, stranger, and it involves something your body is doing right now, this exact second, without you ever noticing. Because the real reason your skin looks the way it does has almost nothing to do with heat, or light, or where you happen to live. It's about a switch, buried inside your skin, that some ancestors flipped, and others never did. Look at your skin right now, whatever color it is. Now understand this, every ancestor you have, every single one, going back far enough, had skin darker than yours. Not some of them, all of them. There is no exception anywhere in the human family tree, none. So something happened to you. Not to humans in some abstract textbook sense. To your bloodline, specifically, personally, at some point in the past. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. You were probably taught this was simple. Less sun, lighter skin, like a tan that never faded back. Clean story, one sentence. Feels true. It's wrong. Not slightly wrong, almost entirely wrong. Because what actually happened inside your ancestors' bodies wasn't about comfort, or climate, or how warm they felt standing outside. It was about survival, in the most brutal, unforgiving sense of that word. Their bodies were fighting a war they didn't even know they were fighting, between two invisible things you've probably never once connected to your own skin. One of them could kill their children before those children were even born. Sit with that for a second. Not cause a rash. Not cause discomfort. Kill their children, in the womb, before birth, and it was happening constantly, silently, in broad daylight. Every single day their skin was exposed to the sun, and the other invisible thing worked in the exact opposite direction, and without it, their bones would eventually fail them completely. So picture that. Two forces, pulling in opposite directions, both deadly, both invisible, and your ancestors' skin sitting directly in the middle, forced to pick a side, depending on exactly where on Earth they happen to be standing. That fight is the real reason you look the way you do right now. Not the sun tanning anyone. A war, fought silently, generation after generation, for hundreds of thousands of years. And it started with the one that could kill a child before it ever took a breath. That first threat is called folate. Say that word out loud right now. Folate. You've probably heard it once, maybe on a prenatal vitamin bottle, and then never thought about it again in your entire life. Here's why you should be thinking about it now. Folate is essential for a developing baby. Without enough of it, the spine and brain can fail to form correctly. Not rarely, not in extreme edge cases, regularly, consistently, wherever folate runs low. And sunlight destroys it. Fast, not over months. Within hours, intense UV exposure can wipe out folate circulating in a person's bloodstream. Now put yourself in equatorial Africa, tens of thousands of years ago. The sun isn't occasional there. It's constant, relentless, every single day, without a break, without a season of relief. If your skin offered no real protection against that sun, your body was losing folate faster than it could ever replace it. Every day, every pregnancy, every generation. Think about what that actually meant, generation after generation. More birth defects, more children who didn't survive, more families that simply ended, quietly, without anyone ever understanding why. Now here's the part that should genuinely change how you see your own reflection. Darker skin blocked that damage. Melanin acted like armor against the exact thing that was killing children before birth. Populations with more of it lost fewer pregnancies. Simple as that. Brutal as that. This wasn't a preference. It wasn't fashion. It wasn't random. It was survival math, playing out silently over thousands of years, deciding in complete silence which children would be born and which never would. So if that's the whole story, dark skin should have stayed universal. Every human, everywhere, should still look exactly the same today. But they don't. Which means somewhere else on this planet, something even stranger was happening. Something that could quietly break a person from the inside, bone by bone, and it had almost nothing to do with a baby at all. Vitamin D. Say that one out loud too, because you already know it, but you have no idea what it was actually costing your ancestors. Here's the twist nobody expects. Vitamin D isn't destroyed by the sun. It's created by it. Your skin makes it directly from UV exposure, and without enough of it, your bones don't just weaken. They bend. They break under weight they should easily handle. In children, this becomes a condition that visibly deforms the skeleton while it's still forming. In adults, bones fracture from almost nothing. So now flip everything you just learned in the last section completely upside down. Dark skin, the same dark skin that was protecting folate near the equator, was blocking something else at the exact same time. Melanin doesn't selectively filter UV rays. It blocks broadly, which means the same armor protecting a pregnancy was also, simultaneously, cutting off the sunlight needed to build strong bones. Near the equator, that trade was worth it. Sunlight was so abundant that even with darker skin filtering most of it, enough still got through to make sufficient vitamin D. Nobody there was losing that fight. But now take that same dark skin and move it somewhere else. Somewhere far from the equator. Somewhere with weak winter sun, short days, months of gray skies. Suddenly the equation breaks completely. Not enough UV gets through dark skin in low-light regions to produce enough vitamin D. Bones start to weaken. Generation after generation, in exactly those environments, populations with lighter skin, letting more UV in, produced more vitamin D, built stronger bones, survived better, reproduced more successfully. Read that again, because this is the actual answer you clicked on this video to find. Two separate survival pressures. One protecting against birth defects near the equator. One protecting against bone disease far from it. Pulling in completely opposite directions, in completely different parts of the world, at the exact same time. And your ancestors, wherever they ended up on the planet, got pulled by whichever pressure was stronger in that specific place. That's not a story about beauty. That's not a story about climate comfort. That's two invisible medical emergencies, silently deciding, over tens of thousands of years, exactly what color your skin would eventually become. So now you understand the two forces. Folate, protected by dark skin. Vitamin D, blocked by dark skin. And here's the part that changes everything you just learned, because this didn't happen quickly, and it didn't happen gently. We're talking somewhere between 10,000 and 40,000 years, depending on which population you're looking at. Which, on a human timescale, sounds enormous. On an evolutionary timescale, it's shockingly fast. Here's why that speed matters so much. Genetic changes affecting skin color didn't need to sweep through an entire species randomly. They only needed to sweep through specific populations, in specific environments, where the pressure was strong enough to matter. And once researchers actually started mapping the genes involved, what they found was almost unsettling in how precise it was. There isn't one single gene controlling skin color. There are several, working together, and different populations arrived at lighter skin through slightly different genetic paths. European populations and East Asian populations, for example, both evolved lighter skin, largely independently, using different genetic variants to get there. Two separate solutions to the exact same problem, arrived at without either population knowing the other existed. Think about what that actually means for a second. This wasn't one single event, one single mutation, spreading outward from one place. This was the same brutal evolutionary pressure, low UV, low vitamin D, hitting different populations in different regions, and evolution independently finding more than one way to solve it. And here's the detail that should genuinely surprise you. Some of the genetic variants responsible for lighter skin in Europe have been dated to roughly 8,000 years ago, far more recently than most people assume. Which means, for tens of thousands of years, even after humans had already spread across Europe, they were still dark-skinned. Lighter skin wasn't the default starting point for people living there. It was a much later adaptation, arriving only once the pressure became severe enough to force it. So picture that timeline for a second. Dark-skinned humans, living across Europe, for thousands of years, long before anyone there had light skin at all. That single fact alone should completely rewrite how you picture ancient history. And it's about to connect to something even stranger, something involving a group of ancient humans you've definitely heard of, but never once connected to any of this. Neanderthals. You've heard the name your whole life, usually as an insult, usually as shorthand for primitive, but here's what almost nobody tells you. Neanderthals living across Europe likely had lighter skin and even red hair, long before modern humans arriving from Africa did. Sit with that for a second, because it completely flips the picture you probably had in your head. For a long stretch of history, it wasn't cavemen were dark, then evolved lighter. It was dark-skinned modern humans, arriving in Europe, encountering populations that had already solved the low sunlight problem tens of thousands of years earlier, through a completely different evolutionary line. And when modern humans and Neanderthals interbred, which we now know happened, some of those same lighter-skinned gene variants may have passed directly into the modern human populations, spreading across Europe. Which means some of the DNA responsible for lighter skin in people alive right now didn't originate in modern humans at all. It came from another species entirely, one that no longer exists, one whose only trace left in this story is quietly sitting inside your own genome. Now zoom all the way back out, because everything connects here. Dark skin, protecting folate, protecting pregnancies near the equator. Lighter skin, allowing vitamin D production, protecting bones. Far from it. Different populations independently solving the exact same problem through different genetic paths. Some borrowing the solution from a species that vanished thousands of years ago, all of it playing out silently, invisibly, over tens of thousands of years, with nobody involved ever once aware it was happening. Nobody chose their skin color. Nobody's ancestors sat down and decided anything. Two brutal, invisible survival pressures fought each other across the entire planet, in every population, for tens of thousands of years, and skin color was simply what was left standing when the fighting finally stopped. So look at your hand one more time, the same way you did at the very start of this video. That color isn't random. It isn't decoration. It's a scar, quite literally, left behind by a war your ancestors fought and never even knew they were fighting. A war between a nutrient that could kill a child before birth and a vitamin that could break a skeleton from the inside. You're not looking at a difference. You're looking at a survivor,